And we are live. Hello, 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 beautiful people. Happy Sunday. And welcome to Janie of Canada Live. This is a real talk monthly session with professional immigrants helping shape the future of current and future immigrants. I'm your host, Janie Buzwe, and I'm so excited to have you today. Okay. Honestly, I always look forward to these lives. So if you're new, if this is your first time in this channel, where have you been? And if you're returned and you subscribed and you're excited, let me see you in the chat. So if you're new, no worries, welcome. I'm very excited to have you sharing your Sunday with us today. And I do have special guests for you, like you know. But before we get there, let's get this scene started. Let's get to know each other a little bit. I'd love for you to know that this is like, if you had seen the posters and you had seen the flyers, you're expecting some professional event, which is what this is. However, this is a Sunday, man. It's a casual conversation. We're friends here. We're going to be chatting, asking each other questions. So with that, I want us to get acquainted. So I want you to get used to using the chat. Okay. So let me know, where are you tuning in from today? Is it Sunday? Is it Monday? I want to know, what part of the world are you tuning in from today? Okay. And if you're registered and you're tuning in, you know then that we're talking about how to level up with a PhD. I want to see people in the chat. Like, if I don't see you in the chat, we're just going to end this thing and all our speakers are going to go because they too are excited to hear from you. Okay. So where are you tuning in from? That's important. But because we're here talking about how to level up with a PhD, getting in and powering up in North America, I want to know, what is the one thing you're hoping to get out of this session today? Because if you leave me, I will just talk and have fun with my girls. I won't get to you, and that's not fair. So let's definitely get that in the chat, okay? Okay. I'm excited. I want to see your answers. I'll wait for that to come in. I do have a chat function going on, so I want to see you. Okay. So honestly, I want this next 1 hour to be very engaging. So let's do some housekeeping. If you're returning and you're like, how's this going to work? You probably already know, but if you're new, we're going to spend the next 1 hour having a real talk conversation about how they got into their PhD, what was challenging for them, questions that they wish somebody had answered for them, things like that. So we're going to do that Q&A. We'd already set questions for the first 30 minutes. And then we're going to go into your questions at the end. So you definitely get used to using the chat. And then we're going to play a fun game called Expectations versus Reality. I already played that one with you because when you saw the flyer, you were expecting a professional event, and now the reality is just a chit chat with friends. So you see what I'm doing? We're going to play that at the end, okay? So that's how we're going to do this next 1 hour. So it's going to be sharp, real quick. We're not playing here. So without further ado, I know you've been waiting for this. You didn't come to hear me talk, and that's totally fine. Let's please welcome our phenomenal speakers, Dr. TT, Dr. Christiana Asantewaa.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Okay. So honestly, like I said, we're running on time. So I want to make sure that we actually start getting to know you a little bit more. So the first question I have for you guys, because I want people to know a little bit about you. Tell me, and this is three of you, please, tell me your immigrant story. And we could do it this way. What do you love to do? What are you paid to do? What are you currently doing? And how did you get there? And you have 1 minute. So this is a task in its own. This is like your PhD all over again for some of you who are done. Please go. Please start.
Okay, I can go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Titi. What am I paid to do? What do I love to do? So I'm currently a senior research associate at the Office of Institutional Research and Planning at the University of Guelph. Basically, what that means is that I analyze a lot of data and manage research projects to support university-wide planning on both the academic and administrative side. PhD-wise, immigrant story, I moved to Canada in 2015 to do my PhD. I did my PhD at Queen's in civil engineering. So following my PhD, I've taken a slight tangent away from engineering now, and I'm working more on the administrative side of the university. So I'll keep it brief.
Because we're going to ask more questions.
I know. Okay.
I say it's your turn. Go.
Okay, guys. I moved here in January. I'm currently in St. Louis, Missouri. Attending Washington University in St. Louis, and I'm currently doing my PhD in biomedical engineering. So essentially, that's what I'm paid to do because I mean, PhD students get stipends to essentially work in the lab and conduct research. So that's basically it. As to what I love to do, aside of course being a PhD student, I guess I like to sing. So you might catch me doing some singing if you were to meet me alone. Yeah, so that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Esse. Lovely to have you on the show. And Dr. Christiana, last but not least.
Hi, everyone. I'll start from what I love to do. I love to sing. I told you, Jenny, that I was just from church. I was on praise and worship. So I love to sing. I love to read and write. And what I'm paid to do, I'm a postdoctoral research associate at Michigan State University. So what that means is I teach, I write grants, I conduct research. Yeah, that's basically what I do. And I came to Canada in 2015 in August, just around the same time Titi also got in. So, and I also went to the same school as Titi, Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. So yeah, I'm going to just leave it here and yeah, flow.
Thank you. So well, actually, thank you so much for sharing that background. So I hear postdoc, I hear US, I hear Canada. So a lot of people be thinking and expecting that because we're having a bunch of doctors and PhD candidates, this is so professional. But I want us to set the mood right so people know that we're actually here for the tea. Thanks, Christiana, for actually having the tea. What that's going to be is some people moved in 2015, some people moved in a pandemic. We'll talk about that essay. But can you please share with us one funny, embarrassing, or like newcomer moment that's happened to you, like in Canada or in the US that you thought, wow, this is my life now? Esse, you're opening your mouth. Looks like you have a story to share.
Well, I do. So the weather here is a bit erratic, and during the winter it was really cold at some point. But then I hadn't gotten used to the idea of like checking the temperature in the morning before going out, and so I dressed really for the cold, only to come out and it was warm, and I'm like, hey. And someone was even running, and I think she laughed at me. It was funny. But you know, in hindsight, I found it funny as well. I didn't get upset that she laughed because obviously she doesn't know where I'm from or whatever. But like coming out and seeing everybody was dressed all warm and you were dressed like for the cold was really funny. You know?
Thank you for sharing. Honestly, that's something even 5 years in Canada. Sometimes I forget to check the weather, and then you go outside and something else surprises you. Christiana, do you have something to share? Or
yeah, definitely. I have a number of them, but I'm just going to pick on one. So when I got in, my supervisors and some other people invited me for lunch. So you know the way it is in Ghana. I'm Ghanaian. So those of you who don't know, I come from Ghana.
Oh, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, that's it, Charlie. So in Ghana, when you're invited to come for lunch, you know that you don't eat in your house because you before and you have all the takeaway and things to send back to your house. So I prepared my mind, went, carried my bowl and stuff. And to my disappointment, they gave me what? Bread. I'm like, bread and cheese. Can you imagine? Bread and cheese and broccoli. And the broccoli wasn't even cooked. Like, it was just like broccoli. I'm like, why you guys didn't even steam this? So I went for lunch, came back home hungry, and prepared my own lunch. So that's it. I mean, Canada, US, the same experience. Like, you go for lunch, you come back hungry. So that's my experience.
Thank you for sharing. So we're all family here, and I honestly appreciate that laughter. So let's get into the meat and the meat of the conversation. So we've seen a lot of research that the most educated group in North America is the Black woman. I'm super proud to have Black women on this panel today. But the truth is, a lot of people were still shocked that we had 3 PhD candidates on this conversation. Three Black women. It's still unfortunately something people are still surprised by. Tell me a little bit more about what motivated you to get a PhD and why Canada or why the US at that part, please. Titi, you want to start?
Okay, sure, I can go. To be honest, I'm actually surprised about the research of the most educated being the Black woman, because I mean, just speaking from my experience, not only like doing my PhD, not only was I the only Black female, well, I was the only Black female in my whole research group, and I think there was only one other Black female in the whole department or something, but I was also only like the only Black person in my research group. So it's both being Black woman and then, you know, and I think it's mainly in engineering. So I think there's still a need for a lot of representation when it comes to like Black women at that higher level of education.
Okay.
In terms of like what motivated me to do my PhD, it was just a love for research. Like I just enjoyed doing research. I had finished my master's, I was researching, and I wanted to continue doing my research. And the only way to do that was either to do another master's or to just go and do a PhD, which was going to be 4 years. And then I could continue researching for a long time. So I just like did some research on research projects that I was interested in, looked up different professors who are also researching in those areas. It was, for me, why Canada instead of US? To be honest, I don't have like a deep answer. It was really just because of GRE. I did not, like once I found out that you have to write GRE for admission to US, with the case, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then Canada was next door to the States. And that's pretty much why. So it's not like as if I really knew anything about Canada before.
It's nothing to do with Justin Trudeau or anything like that.
It was next door to the States, and we asked for GRE. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go.
Awesome. Love for research, no GRE, next door to the States. Christiana, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. I think just to add to what Titi said, I love to teach and I love research. But in addition to all of this, I like to get to the top of everything. So when you come into education, PhD is the top. And I didn't want to have regrets in life, get to a point in my life and say, wow, I wish I did a PhD. I'm like, no. Okay, so what's the highest PhD? I'm going for it. So that's also the one thing that motivated me. And then Canada or US, like Titi said, I didn't really have a preference. I was looking for a scholarship. And so I was really open. I've written the GRE before. I mean, talk about any part of the world. I wanted to go to school. So God opened the door for me in Canada. I packed my bag and here I am.
We'll talk about that. You were open to everywhere in the world.
Oh yeah, even Iceland. Name it. I would go. I'm like, I want to go to school.
I love that. And that determination to get to the top of anything. Okay, we'll talk about it. So you both are trying to tell me that if some people like me who just want to make their parents proud, it's not enough.
It's not enough motivation.
Okay. You definitely have a different path, being that you're in the US. You even also started your PhD in a pandemic. So tell us about your story. What motivated you to get a PhD, especially in the US?
So two things. Funding, yes. I found out quite late, because if I found out earlier, I would have been here long ago, that PhD in the US, majority of the schools would fund you 100%, as long as you're making progress towards your degree.
Let me take a note, please.
Yeah, majority of the schools will fund you 100%. You would be fully funded.
Amazing.
They'll pay you stipends. They would take care of your tuition. You won't have to pay, as long as you're making good effort towards getting your degree. So that was the first thing. Once I found that out, I started to apply. The second thing is, of course, I've always felt like my undergrad degree was really useful. In Nigeria, there were not many opportunities. There was only one school offering a master's in the entire country. So ultimately, I had to travel. But then while I was trying to get in for a master's, I started hearing stories of people that were getting in for a PhD with an undergraduate degree. I'm like, oh, wow. I was scared, but I just decided to give it a shot, and it worked out. So that's the story, yeah.
Okay, so one thing you guys have talked about is access to funding and getting scholarships and grants. Let's dive into that a little bit more. And Esse, something I've heard from your story a lot is if you had found out earlier, you would have done it. So that's honestly testament to like sharing more of our stories, and this is the reason we do Journey of Canada Life, because to be honest, I didn't even know that in the US you get 100% funding in most schools. So let's talk about your admission processes. It's also very diverse. Right. So you decided, I love research. You decided I want to get to the top of my career. You decided so all of that, so you've decided. Walk us through how you got into the PhD. Please share the tea for people like us who want to, get there someday.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I guess I can start. So for me, when I was looking out for schools, the first thing I wanted to find out was if I had to have an idea of what research I wanted to do first before going in. I realized that there are quite a lot of schools that do not require you to have an idea or 100% clarity on what you want to do for your PhD. Essentially, you don't have to have like a proposal in mind. That was interesting to me because at the time I was applying, I really didn't have a proposal in mind. I just had some interest. I just wanted to know more. I wanted to expand my knowledge in biomedical engineering. And so that was like the motivation. And that was what I wrote in my research, my statement of purpose. So it was like applying for a master's, except that you were explaining why you wanted to get a PhD. It was that simple. There was no separate requirement. You didn't have to have a lab in mind. Interestingly, even when they think about how to do the interview, because you would have to do an interview. For masters, you may not need to do an interview, but for PhD, you would have to do an interview. Some schools would even select based on a PI that maybe liked your application. Or
what's PI, please?
PI is principal investigator. So it's like the lab owner, essentially, owner of the lab. Some schools would have PIs look at applications and reach out to students that they felt were potential or potentially going to want to work in their lab. Some other schools would just randomly select based on availability and all of that. So there's flexibility. You don't have to have it all figured out. That was like the first thing. So once I wrote my statement of purpose, I already had GRE. I'd taken the GRE. I decided to go back to school in 2018. So I took GRE towards the end of 2018. I had fairly good results. Now, I did not have 162 like people think. You don't have to have you don't have to get everything. I had I think 157, 150 something, 153 or so, which is
out of what? 160.
Out of so it's out of 160, yes. I'm sorry, out of 170. Out of 170.
So I had you guys how fairly good is 150 out of 170. Okay, take it.
No, but that's like average. You have to get at least 300 for your GRE. And I had like maybe 157, 153. So that was like 300 and 310, 311. And that was sufficient for me to get into what I later found out is a really good school, So
that's that story of our lives on this call. When you get into a school and you're like, oh, it's good. Okay.
Just give it a shot. That's what I would advise anybody. If you had good grades in your undergrad, give it a shot. You never know.
We'll talk about resources and tools that you actually use to find schools and all of that in the end. So if you wait to the end, we're going to share resources to actually start your search if you're interested. Dr. Christiana, you're laughing. You want to share something about your admissions process, definitely. And like the interviews, like how did you get from I'm interested to I'm in a school?
Yeah, so just to add to what Esse said, I think the difference here is the GRE that I did not have to write GRE for Canada, but I had been looking to get into a PhD for a long time. Actually, I wanted to do my master's abroad, and I share a lot about my PhD journey on my YouTube channel. And I think Jenny will let you all know my YouTube channel. It's the Folson's Tube.
Yes.
So I share a lot about my whole journey. So at a point, one of my friends sent me the link, to apply. And as Esse said, I didn't know the school. And I already told you guys, if it were Iceland, I was ready to go. I didn't know, but I just happened to get to Queens and I realized, oh, this is a good school. So it was the same process. I had to do the first stage. You send in your personal statement. So I got somebody to try to help me to review it. And the person didn't even, this is what he said: you cannot email me your personal statement because the school may know, some kind of funny story. So I didn't really get anyone to, review my personal statement. So that's something I try to help other people with now. And the best he did for me was, okay, call me on WhatsApp and read your personal statement. And I mean, who does that? So I get on WhatsApp, read, maybe the boy is going to school, then you say, okay, cancel is. So I understand the struggle when people want to get into PhDs abroad and looking for somebody to look at their personal statements. So I'm like, okay, you consult me and I'll be able to help you. And I don't charge people. So it's just like a service that I offer to help other people.
Be careful what you wish for. The flood is about to come. There's like almost 20 people who are probably
just give out to people. So in the beginning, I didn't really take it serious because I was at a point in my career where I was just tired of everything. I was in Ghana. I was just tired. I applied to this school. They say you have the admission, you don't have the funding, that kind of thing. I was just tired. So when the guy sent me the email, the link, I actually delayed. So at some point, like the Holy Spirit was just, and those of you who don't know, I'm a believer. So I believe in God and all the prayers, and Titi knows that a lot every time I'm in church. So I believe the Holy Spirit just prompted me that go back to this link, So I went back and I saw that, oh, the deadline will be up in about 3 days. But I'm like, okay, I don't have anything to lose. Let me still apply. So I applied, and then they emailed back to say, well, the deadline is almost, but we'll still consider you, blah, blah, blah. We'll consider other people first and then come to you. I'm like, whatever. So I forgot about this. And then I was there, and what happened? They sent me an email to say I've been shortlisted. So I'm like, okay, let's be serious here. Now I was ready for the interview. I just went back into my master's, what I did, all my experience and things like that. I was in Ghana then. So we had a Skype. That time Zoom wasn't popular. So we had the Skype, and even internet was a challenge, but by God's grace, it all worked out. And then here I was selected, and I came to Queens. So I came not knowing where I was coming to. I got to Kingston. I'm like, is this abroad? Because it looked like kind of like a mini village. I'm like, okay, we are here for school, so let's go for it. So let me leave it here so that I don't go over. If you want to know more about my journey, you can visit my YouTube channel. So yeah.
Thank you for that definite context, because that will actually help the conversation. TT.
Yeah, so my admission process was a bit different from Christiana's and Esse's. In my case, like I mentioned, I love research already, and I think like my master's helped me a lot to kind of narrow down the research areas that I was interested in. So my tactic actually was to find a supervisor, because you find from doing your PhD that the most important relationship, like the make or break thing, is who your supervisor is, the type of relationship you have with your supervisor. That's even more important than your research topic, as far as I'm concerned. So like knowing about what these professors are doing, and maybe if you can contact some of their current students to figure out, how is this person in real life? Is this someone that I should actually apply to? So what I did was I emailed a bunch of professors at different universities, all in Canada, like I said, because I crossed out US from my list. So once I found professors who were researching in areas I was interested in, I had an email with my transcript and my, I don't know if I had a personal statement, but I had my email of, these are my research interests. And it was very specific. This is what I'm planning to do. I see that you do research in this. Are you looking to add someone on your team? So it was more it was very direct, right? And I had one, I think, a professor from Queens, I didn't even know anything about Queens, just like Christiana. So Professor from Queens responded saying, would I be interested in having an interview that him and another professor are working on a project, actually, they're just developing a grant, which would align with what I said I'm interested in. And I was like, okay, no problem, I don't mind having an interview. And I still remember I had, because I was in Nigeria then, I had a job interview and I had my PhD interview on the same day. The job interview was right before. And I actually had my PhD interview in a restaurant across the streets. I took my laptop there because I was like, whichever one clicks is what I'll do. It wasn't a do or die. And so the interview, to me, I found it was kind of a formality. They just asked me what my what my master's was about. That was really mostly what it was about. They wanted to know what I researched in. So I think they were just assessing what types of skills I had and things like that. And then after we spoke about that, I was like, okay, we have this funding opportunity for you if you're interested. Let us know when you want to come. And then I applied to Queens. So I hadn't applied to Queens with all of this. It was more, we are willing to fund you for this research. So now apply. So Queens was actually the only university I applied to for my PhD. And that was kind of a formality because in the application, they even ask you if you have supervisors already. So if you can just put their name in, which, it just makes the process faster.
Okay. So speaking about process times, because you had a very different route. Titi, you were very targeted. You had the professors you were reaching out to. Christiana, you were anywhere, Iceland included. I say you need to have a research topic. In quick statement, how long did the entire process take you? Essay start.
So I applied in November. I got the offer by March. So essentially 3 months.
Wow. Okay. Christiana and Titi, do you remember? Because it's been a while.
Yeah, I think for me it was around the same time, maybe 3 to 4 months. Yeah. Okay.
So sometimes masters even feels longer. It takes a while to get into a master's program than a PhD program, apparently. Titi, was that the same time?
I think because I emailed quite a bunch of professors, and I'm guessing I'll put 3 months in when I got. Okay. I know by March I had my letter. But I'm guessing by January was when I got serious.
So folks, we're going to share some of this like funding tools and like how you actually start your research process, how to reach schools and later on. But I want to talk a little bit more about so one thing that's very different, let's say, is your roots. So Christiana and Titi have a master's. They did a master's, and Titi even talked about how her interview was very much anchored on what research she did in her master's. You don't. You actually finished your undergrad a while back, worked in industry, did brand management. You have a whole PMP certification. Why did you just continue in the career route? You're already thriving there. Why did you continue to do a PhD? But also, you didn't need a master's to do a PhD. How's that?
Okay, so the interesting thing about a lot of, in fact, even really great universities in America is you do not need a master's to apply for a PhD program. And that's because typically, right, a lot of their students have some research experience from their undergrad. That's the first thing. And then second thing is you would actually take the courses that would help you sort of get the master's on the way. So it's the same classes that master's students take, that PhD students take. So that's why you essentially do not need to have a master's. If you do have a master's, the advantage is you can transfer credits. So you may need to take as many classes when you get into the PhD. You take fewer classes and be able to focus more on the research. So that's the only advantage of having the master's first. Other than that, if you have a good undergrad degree and you have an idea of what you want to do for your PhD, you can go ahead and apply. You asked the second question about I didn't get the second question.
Oh no, you answered it. It was pretty much about why you didn't continue in the career route, why you decided to go the PhD route.
Why did I not continue? Yes. So I've always wanted to, I felt like biomedical engineering could give me more skills to sort of impact more positively. I know marketing is great, but there's something about knowing that the research you're doing is going to improve somebody's life that makes it more endearing. I'm a server, and people are different. If I would want to do something that I feel helps somebody else, and so that's why while marketing was good, it seemed like I was helping myself or my company, not really helping people. And I was marketing in healthcare, so it's not like I was not selling products that did not help people's health, but I just felt I could use my skills better.
Okay, awesome.
Sorry, Jeannie, just a point I wanted to add or like ask Esse about the PhD straight from undergrad. So is your program an accelerated PhD program or is it a PhD program? Like I'm trying to understand. So with the admission requirement, they specifically say undergrad, no master's required.
Yes, so they put it there that you don't have to have a master's if you read the information. So yeah, it's always written. If you don't need a master's, the school probably puts it down there somewhere before you even get to the application page.
Christiana, you have a question?
Yeah. I mean, doing my postdoc in the US, I understand what Esse is saying. I have like that student who just came from undergrad to master's, and TT it's not accelerated. It's not. I know what it means by accelerated. Some people start maybe undergrad and
master, and then just convert to PhD.
Yeah, but this one, it's like you undergrad and then you. I know so many people in the US.
I have that in my department at Queens. We don't have this option to just come in.
That's pretty cool. So did it take you all So did it take? What's the average length of time for a PhD then?
So in the US, it's about 5 to 6 years. And people do it in shorter, but it's rare, really. You have to be good, and because you have to publish. Like it's not just about doing research. Sometimes research goes well, sometimes it doesn't. So they give you quite a good bandwidth of time to be able to conduct, independent research that you can publish and that would be beneficial to science. So 5 to 6 years. Give yourself 5 years, yeah.
And in Canada?
I mean, I would say 4 years. 6 years. Yeah, 6 years seems long.
Okay, well, we have like 6-7 more minutes. I want us to get to like the middle of it. Okay, so you did mention your postdoc, Christiana. So Titi and Christiana, you're both done with your PhDs, but you have different routes. Christiana, you went to do a postdoc, which is, as I understand it, the post-PhD thing. And Titi went on to the non-traditional route. So quickly tell us about the reasons you decided to go your route, how the postdoc process actually works. And Titi, you please share why you decided to go the route you did.
Well, the truth for me is I was really open. I love to teach. I said that. I love to conduct research. I like to write all these grants and things like that. But and I was also really open to industry work, like working in the UN and World Bank. And it's still a dream I have. And Titi will tell you, we used to talk a lot about like, Christiana, where are you going? I'm like, you know what, Titi, at this point, whatever opportunity God brings my way, I will take that as a yes. So because for my long-term career goal, I'm looking at actually even combining all these professor things I'm doing with industry work. So for example, say that I'm a prof in this school and I can also be consultant with UN or World Bank or something like that, because I love industry too. So the thing is, the postdoc is the opportunity that presented itself to me, and it kind of matched my career aspirations and what I wanted to do. So I went for it. That's what I wasn't straitjacketed like, no, it has to be industry. No, it has to be postdoc. Okay, what opportunities are out there? And actually, you can ask Titi. I really wanted to stay in Canada for so many other reasons. And even when I got into this postdoc, I had to do some interviews, and they interviewed me as if I was going for a faculty position. I mean, even my supervisor went like, wow, Christiana, is this faculty? Let's try it again. It was so rigorous. It was so rigorous.
So getting into a postdoc took a lot of interviewing.
Exactly. I did the first set of interviews via Zoom, and the second one, when I was shortlisted for the final, they had to fly me to Michigan State University. Yes. So I went to there, and there were thousands of other people interviewing with me. And so far, they hadn't picked any Black in that program. So I'm the first Black female. So like my color is popping like that. So I thought that, okay, this is a good opportunity for me. So why not just go? So I was open. Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell the audience. Yeah.
Okay. One thing I'll just share is that once you get that UN job and then you're doing your industry stuff, don't lose my number. Did you share your route and why you took the non-traditional route?
Yeah, so in my case, unlike Christiana, I was completely opposed to a postdoc. Like that was the one thing I refused to apply to, because I felt like for me the postdoc would be.
You have to apply to a postdoc.
Or sometimes, like in my case, for example, if I had wanted to continue on with my supervisors, I could have done that temporarily as a postdoc after I was done my PhD. So sometimes there's that opportunity to continue, which is a nice buffer for PhD students. But in my case, like during my PhD, what I found is that I love research, but I'm more interested in like the application of research, the impact. Mm-hmm. And I found that while I'm doing my PhD, like for example, I defended in December 2019, and I still have like a publication that is still like a paper that is still awaiting publication. So the process from your results to impact to people using your results sometimes just takes a long time. And I wanted something where what I'm researching on has direct impact, like it's being used right now. The reports I'm using, people are reading it, it's used for decision making. And so that was how I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to switch. So now the thing is, for PhD students who are looking to go in non-traditional or like non-academic, it's actually like it's a real uphill battle because we're not used to that environment. Unfortunately, a PhD doesn't prepare you for even just your resume, like how to write, because everything is different. The things we find as important are lab work and what we're doing. No one cares about. Well, I mean, let me not say they don't care about, but they don't care about it as much as we do. They care about things like maybe project management, your people skills, organization skills, which sometimes we overlook. We don't think about the fact that we actually gain these skills while doing a PhD. So in my case, I had to search out for PhDs who were not working in academia. I had a lot of informational interviews with them, trying to find out, like, did you regret leaving academia? What are you doing now? So they actually helped me. Some of them helped me review my CV. We changed the wording. Interview process was, it takes a while. Like for me, it took me like a whole year. My CV before I even got my first interview, and even that first interview, looking back, I'm like, I've really improved from them. So it's a journey when you decide to go branch out of academia.
Interesting. So you're saying that the PhD kind of gave you that very academic like mindset, and then trying to go back to something other than that was its own process. So that's definitely something to know, and thank you for sharing. But one thing you guys have kind of touched on too is being, like Christiana, you mentioned, the only Black person. You also talked about the only Black female. let's talk about race. We can't even we cannot have a conversation with all Black women and not bring up a conversation around race and the racial tensions and what we're in right now. So tell me a little bit more of and Esse, please, I also like to hear your own insight, because it's been a couple months for you too, and since you've realized you're a Black woman, because you're just Nigerian before now. So how has race affected your career and educational pursuits? And only two or all of you can answer, just because of time. You decide. Esse, you want to start?
Okay, so I would say I'm lucky. Because whilst my school is a good proportion white, I have some mentors. I would call them mentors, even though I'm not really affiliated with all of them yet, that are Black and are at the helm of their affairs, and they are both Nigerian. Interesting. So yeah, so I have people to look at and say, okay, they did it, I can. So that's what I do.
Representation matters.
When you feel like the only Black person, because when you're walking around campus, majority of people you would see in engineering are Asians or white. You would see some Black people, but we are not many. So every time I want to worry, I look at those two people, I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. Yeah. So
thank you for sharing that. So I guess that's the importance of mentors. And it's tough in a place where we don't have a lot of representation, but I'm happy you have that. And you just have to seek that out. Christiana, you're going to say?
Yeah, similar to Esse, I have two mentors for my postdoc, and both of them are from Hong Kong. Okay, so they understand. And even the Americans I work with, I find that by God's grace, they are more careful around me, so that, they don't tend to be passing racialized comments and things like that. So I wouldn't say that I felt racialized in any way. I wouldn't say that, except when I was a student. There were times in Kingston, Canada, where I would sit on a bus and nobody would sit by me. Come on, I got used to it. So when I sit on the bus, I just put my backpack on the next seat. Don't even sit by me. I don't care.
We should do a whole live about life in Kingston, at least.
So things like that. One time also I was going to campus and somebody behind me kept shouting, she's Black, and cursing. And so I just walked hurriedly. So things like that. And sometimes the bus drivers will go away even when they see you coming. So minor things like that. But in the professional environment, I don't feel racialized.
Yeah, sorry, just to quickly add that for Christiana, because one thing I noticed is the difference between race when it comes to your relationship with students and in the environment you're in, and then with your, for example, supervisors and the academics. I find that with academics and professors in my case, I think it's maybe because they're used to collaboration and conferences and they go on international conference, they tend to have a better idea on how to engage with international students because they're used to that kind of international collaboration. So I'm talking about professors, but it's when you come to the student level and your environment that you're in that you start to remember all these things.
Okay, no, but honestly, thank you for sharing that. And Christiana, I, from my YouTube channel, have heard a lot of people say, oh, race is a US problem and it's not in Canada. I did a whole video on this topic. So thank you for sharing your experience. So you guys, just so you know, it's real. Okay, I wanted us to be able to get to the people's questions. So please keep your questions coming. We'll get to it in a minute. But I wanted us to close this round with, knowing all you know about your PhD so far, let's say it might feel new to you. Let's talk about the characteristics of people that will thrive as a PhD candidate and who should reconsider this thing. I think I know now from this conversation that because I just want to please my mom, I should reconsider it. Who else? Who else? What kind of attributes and skills do you need to actually thrive in a PhD? Because it's 4-6 years, right? And who should reconsider it? Titi, you want to start?
I think you need a lot of mental and emotional tolerance and perseverance. Because I think for maybe everyone that goes through a PhD, there will be one or two, a few breakdowns that you have along the way. There'll be times when they're not.
Everybody's
no, but it's true. There will be times that you think you're just wondering, you can't see the end, especially with Esse was talking about with the publications. You have to publish. That's kind of, you have to, there's no way out. Even if your research is not going well, it does not change the requirement that you have to publish. You must publish, so you can't say, oh, my experiments didn't work out, and so just take me like that, just let me graduate. It doesn't work like that. So I think that you have to, and you have to love research. There are a lot of times where you have to be self-motivated even though things are not going well, because no one is going to be pushing you. You have your supervisors that check up and want to find out what the progress is, but except you are the person motivating yourself to finish, eventually you'll catch up with you and maybe you have to drop out or something. So you have to be really self-motivated and very organized. I'll just stop there so that Christiana and Esse can
Yeah, I
mention.
wanted to add to Titi, and Titi know it all. Titi has been my buddy for a really long time, and to just say you have to have the passion. You know, you don't come and do a PhD because your friend is doing a PhD. Don't, and especially in North America.
Tony has left the chat.
Like especially in North America.
Yeah.
You know, because I know people who are on PhDs in maybe South Africa and UK, and it's so different from North America. I know people who have their PhDs and they do not even write comprehensive examinations. And let's talk about comms. Writing my comms, Titi was looking for me all over the school. And
what is comms, please?
So it's comprehensive examinations. It's more like a qualifying exams. So that's what moves you from a PhD student to a PhD candidate. Okay, so once you're a candidate, then you have all but defense of your thesis. So you're in kind of like a better place. So for my department, and the comms is so different, even in North America, across department. For example, my comms was so different from TT's own. It's so different. That's why when you come here, you shouldn't be comparing experiences because they are so different. Because mine was an 11 weeks process, and you have comms A and you have comms B. And if you do not pass, they either drop you into a master's program or they kick you out of the program.
Well,
exactly. Imagine me coming from Ghana. I did my master's in Ghana and I jumped onto a PhD here. Definitely, I needed to be determined. I needed to be hardworking. I needed to be focused. I didn't get here because my friend is here. I got here because I wanted the PhD. And I believe that is what God is directing me to do. And that's one thing I want people to know. Don't just follow the crowd. Believe in the dream, because during comms, oh my God, my whole face was filled with, you see that by God's grace, there's no acne on my face. You can ask Titi, the number of times you see me with, I was just stressed. And wow. I mean, come on. So be passionate, want it, be determined, and then you can push through. I'll leave it here for Ezzy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is it can be a bit lonely. So emotional stability is important, and this is why your research is your research. It's different from what the next person in your lab is doing. It's different from what somebody else in another department is doing, or another lab. Or it's really different. So you need to have that. You need to remember why you are doing this, and that's why the personal motivation is really important. For me, I'm lucky. I get to do. Because of the way the structure is, I get to do 2 rotations in 2 different labs, or some people even do 3 before picking a permanent lab. So for those who are coming to the US, you would most likely have the opportunity in a lot of schools to do that, to nail your passion down if you don't know it yet. The second thing I would say is you have to work hard and be prepared to work really hard, because truth is, your supervisor is only going to check on you once in a while. They are here and there. They are busy, really busy. So if you're expecting someone that'll just come and hold your hand, you have to be self-learning. You have to be willing to try and learn by yourself and realize that the classes you are taking, and in selecting classes, you should select classes that will help you understand your research better. So you don't just select random classes. You should select classes that would improve your research experience. I guess the last thing is look at what the school's timelines and milestones are. She mentioned comms. In my school, for example, you have to pass qualifiers after your first year, and then you have to write a research proposal by your 3rd year. You also have to TA in your 2nd year. So you need to look at those things. If you are not able to make progress, of course, it means you would drop off. So take these milestones seriously and put in the work. The last thing is you should have a growth mindset. You are not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You need to learn to forgive yourself, else you are going to be frustrated. Because you would learn, you would improve. As you are doing these things, as you are reading papers, you would ultimately improve. The whole point is to learn. Yeah. Gotcha. That's the mindset you need to have. Else you'll be looking for results only.
Thank you all so much. Like, I honestly believe in sharing the real story. Some people might think, oh, this is scary, but I'd rather know what I'm getting into so I can prep myself, having that growth mindset and readiness. I really appreciate you sharing your journeys. Okay, real quick, I know I said last question before, but this is the last one in this segment. Can you share, like, somebody is interested, case study, somebody is interested in the PhD today, where should they start? Like, is there a website, a tool, or what resources actually help you navigate your process, and like who to apply to, where to start? Esse, maybe this question is for you only.
So I would say it depends on your goals. So if you have a master's degree and you already have a research idea, I would say look out for professors and schools that are already doing that kind of research. And for me, biomedical engineering is very broad, so you actually need to nail it down at some point. Then once you are done with that, I would say look out for schools that have funding if you cannot pay yourself. And then look out for what the requirements are to apply. Once you are clear on that, then it becomes easier to see what is in it for me and what I have to bring to the table to excel here. Like I said earlier, you don't have to have it all figured out. Then another thing is, some schools have qualifying exams after your first year. Some schools don't. So if you don't want the pressure of taking a qualifying exam, then you may want to look at schools that don't do that. But the reality is, even if you don't have qualifying exams, by your third or second year, you have to have your proposal written and defended. So you cannot avoid defending stuff. That's what moves you, like she said, from a PhD student to a PhD candidate, because by then you've told them, this is what this is the research I'm going to do for my PhD degree. You can't avoid that. So yeah.
So thank you so much, Esse. And it seems like all of you somehow got funded. Is there a list or somewhere where I can find schools that would fund my PhD research if I was interested in that? Or how did you go about finding that?
So with regards to the list of schools, I think for Canada, just keep in mind that when you're coming here, like I can speak for engineering and science. If you have a supervisor, you will be funded. So you don't have to look for schools that will fund you. The people who look for funding are maybe if you're looking for external funding. So maybe things like I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think Scholarship for Africa or something is a resource to check. They have lots of scholarships for Africans. That one is different because then you kind of have to have your research proposal, you have your funding, and then you're reaching out to professors saying, I have this money, I have my funding, just take me supervise me on. So it's a different process.
So Jenny, my funding is called the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Scholarship. Okay, so that's my funding, and as Titi was saying, that's completely different from the one the school will give you. Like if you went Titi's route, find the school, find the supervisor, do things here. Yeah, and I've been helping people, and what I do is we go the Titi's route. We try to get the school, get the supervisor to say yes, apply. And once they say yes, now you go and apply, and the school will give you that minimum funding. That's for PhD. Yeah. So.
No, thank you.
Just something to add.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry. Go on.
So in the US, really, if your PI would most likely fund you, so your advisor. Your school would typically, if you are like my school where you do rotations in the first year and you're not affiliated with a lab, your school is likely going to fund your first year or first 2 years. After that, once you find an advisor, that person will fund you. But they still advise that if you can, you should apply for grants, because obviously they are funding grants that you've gotten. And so you would lighten the burden on them if you come in with your own scholarship, but it's not compulsory. Yeah, that you have that.
Titi, were you going to add something?
Let me say thoughts on that. I was just going to say that even if you are admitted, there are the opportunities like in second year. There are some grants that come up for like PhD students who are now candidates or things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so now because we only have 10 minutes, let's quickly get into the audience questions. And one person can just take it. We don't have to go through everyone, okay? So Phoebe is asking, how did you narrow down your research topic? I feel like it's all over the place for me. Who wants to take this one?
Okay, with narrowing down, like I mentioned, with my master's helped me narrow down, but I should probably clarify. When I say narrow down, it's still very broad. When you get into a PhD, you realize how specific you have to be. So, for example, you can't say I'm researching on colors. You say I'm researching on how the sun affects the yellow change from this point. It has to be very specific, and that's not something that I feel like you can know before coming in. So I think at the beginning, when you're going in, it's okay to just say, I have these research areas in, let's say, colors, and these are probably the colors I want to look at. This is probably the area, maybe light, how this affects, but down to the actual specifics, I don't even think it's advisable to narrow down that much, because then it limits your funding opportunities. It limits what professors you can find. So be a bit flexible in different topics that you're willing to research on. That's what I'll say.
Under an area. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So Christiana, this one will be for you. Fifi's also asking, thank you so much for your engagement and the questions. She's asking, what does a postdoc entail? Is it full-time research work?
So for postdoc is just like cheap labor for a professor. You do everything a professor does, and they pay you so little. So it's like some kind of training, but you teach, you do research, you write the grants, and like all that. And by God's grace, I've gotten an opportunity to be a PI, principal investigator on grants, which is really good. Otherwise, if you're a postdoc, most of the time, you are not a principal investigator, like you are under your mentor. So it's like you're doing all the work for really small money in the name of their training you. So that's a postdoc. Let me just put it that way.
Hence why I didn't apply to it.
In the name of
where's the money?
I was like, no.
Okay, no, thanks for that information. Okay, so Phoebe's also asking, it appears that a lot of STEM PhDs are fully funded. Do you guys know anything about non-STEM PhDs in North America, if they're funded?
I don't know for sure, but I'm sure that it's very likely that other types of research would also be funded. Now, the reason why STEM is fully funded is because government backs it. You know, there's a lot of government funding. Most of our advisors have government grants. That's the truth.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that other kinds of research would also have funding. So just try, you'd find something.
Okay, thank you all so much. Okay, so we've answered most of the questions. Any other questions? I know I asked it in the conversation just to make sure that we actually maximize the time we have together. I have learned so much. Now it's time to play, okay? Now let's breathe and enjoy. So this is a very fun segment. Frankly, my most fun segment is where, because at the end of the day, we're all immigrants to North America. Some 5, some 2, some 3 months because of the pandemic and all of that. We now will play a game called Expectation versus Reality. And the way this works is, in one word, you have to either say expected or shocked. I will tell you about a thing that happens in North America, and you say it was expected or it was shocked. And for our audience watching, you can play along too if you're in North America. And if you want to also probe and ask why Esse, Titi, or Christiana said expected or shocked, you can reach out to them on LinkedIn, okay? So let's go. Are we all good? Do we get the sense of the game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you moved to Canada, what did you think about the food on US? Expected or shocked?
Expected. For me.
I would probably say shocked.
Okay, Esse?
Shocked.
It's shocked. Okay, what about the people?
I would say shocked.
So again, it's expected for me. I had traveled to do stuff, maybe 2 months in the US, things like that. So expected. Again,
You lose
Even
one.
Kingston, Christiana, you expected the people you met in Kingston.
The people who you were putting a backpack for.
like,
Okay. I say the people expected or shocked.
Shocked. I can't lie.
Everything is shocking. Esse. Oh my gosh, we're here for you, honey. We're here for you. Let's talk about the culture, generally of the place you are in. Expected or shocked?
I mean, I don't know what the culture is yet, so I think. So I don't know where that falls. If it's expected or shocked. Maybe I'm in between. I'm still, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if this falls under culture, but I was shocked that, like, in my whole how many years, I didn't get to attend a wedding. Actually, just one wedding. Titi, the one we went for, remember that wedding?
Oh.
So I think it's a cultural thing. People don't commit in terms of the marriage thing. Is more cohabitation, things like that.
It's also individualism, and they have smaller weddings here. Back home, you have big weddings. That's why you get invited. Your house. They're not giving you.
You know what? Sorry, I just remembered something, because I think I was shocked by something in the culture. Like when I first came, and then you're walking past and someone says, "Hey, how are you?" And then I would stop to be like, oh, I'm fine, thank you. But the person is walking off already. I'm like, why did you ask me how I'm doing if you don't care? But apparently, I found out like, how are you is part of hey. So it's just like, hey, how are you doing?
It's one long phrase.
Yeah.
Usually you have to wait for the no, really, how are you? If not,
I'm
Esse
like,
culture, expected or shocked?
I would say in between expected and shocked, because there are some things I sort of, wasn't surprised about, but then other things like not knowing your neighbor, was a bit shocking.
Yes. Okay, speaking about neighbors, housing, expected or shocked?
I would say shocked, but that's probably my fault because I didn't plan my housing before I came, which I probably should have. I was trying to do it when I came here, so the whole concept of the leasing thing and everything was just completely. I needed credit check or like a guarantor or something. It was just different, to get housing here.
Okay. Christiana?
Okay, so I would say shocked, even though someone helped me to find accommodation. I just like the laundry being in the same place, the internet, like everything in one place. It made life so easy. So I'm like, oh, okay, nice.
That's how you know the people who have blown. They have everything in one place. You have to go downstairs in some buildings. Esse, expected or shocked housing?
I was somewhere in between actually, because I realized that finding housing is not as easy as having, like in Nigeria, where you have like some agents trying to show you stuff. You have to go online and, look for all these places and send emails and multiple emails. So that was the shocking part. But with regards to amenities, I guess because I went through that route, I sort of got a hang of what to expect in the apartment. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, and last but not the least, education. Because this, again, because of the topic we're in, was it expected? Is it shocking? And no, because just say expected or shocked.
I mean, if we're talking about PhD, I would say shocked because I don't think you can know what you're going in until you're in. So, yeah.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay, cool. Titi, you already answered Esse.
Shocked.
Okay, Christiana.
I was really, really, really shocked. really.
Okay, awesome. So, no, thank you all so much. You have to trust PhD folks to play a game where they're supposed to say one word and you get a thesis. So I really appreciate your time, Titi, Esse, and Christiana. We've learned so much today about the mindset you need to have, the way the interview process works, the way admission works. If there's any last things you have to say, now is the time. You have 10 seconds. Go. Esse.
If you really want this, you can do it. So please give it a shot.
Awesome. Titi?
I would say even though it's a hurdle, the journey, the end really does justify the means. I know we're talking about how difficult it was, but now in hindsight, like we're happy that we went through that process and did a PhD. There are so many skills that we got that we're really grateful for from the PhD. So I would say just hold on. Tough it out, I guess, and then at the very end, then you appreciate the sacrifices that you're making to do the PhD.
Thank you, appreciate it. Christiana?
Yeah, so our intention is not to scare you at all. I see some of the chats like people are scared and all. That's not our intention. Our intention is to just let you know what you are getting into and think about it this way, that try to do the thing that you think you cannot do. Like, what's the one thing you think you cannot do? Try to do that. And there are so many resources online. For example, like I said, I have a YouTube channel. I go into details. I talk about what you can do, what you cannot do. So, I mean, tap into some of these resources and get on your journey to getting a PhD and you will not regret, because I have no regrets. If I were to do it again, I would do it again. Yeah.
And I guess that's the sense for everybody. Titi, that's it. That's a part 2.
Yeah, let's see. That's part 2. I was thinking blind, but
thank you all so much. Your time is something we cannot give you back, but I'm sure we learned so much from everything. And we just want to say thank you so much. Okay, I'll see you guys soon. Bye. And so people, so thank you all so much for joining the show today. We just talked about how to level up with a PhD. Journey of Canada Live is going to be monthly sessions where we talk with professional immigrants about their journeys to Canada. Is there a topic you want us to talk about? Are there people whose stories have blown your mind that you want to share? Please reach out in the comment section, or you can find me at hello@jennybooz.com, and let's share more stories. Thank you all so much, and I hope this was very impactful for you. If it was, again, please subscribe to the channel so you do not miss a session like this. Thanks, everybody, and have yourself a lovely Sunday. Take care now. Bye.